inherent in this discussion is the fact that police officers are saying, look, in the heat of the moment, when you have to make these decisions, in split-second decisions, mistakes will sometimes be made, and we, the police officers, need to be legally protected here. Today, they see no sign of that, with one officer having been charged with murdering this motorist last year, a black guy, Chris Kaba. So you can understand why the police are so much in arms. Let's ask Peter Bleksley, former Met Police detective, of course, what he thinks about it. I mean, I've got a lot of sympathy for these officers. This is untenable, isn't it, if they all operate under the umbrella system that if something goes wrong, they could get charged with murder?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say that I used to have what back in the day was a pink ticket in my warrant card. So I was an authorised firearms officer, and if need be, I could take a gun out onto the streets of London, which I did on many occasions. So I've made that decision before I got trained as to whether I would be willing to take somebody else's life if need be, and came to the decision that if the bad guys are going to have guns, then I wanted to have one. That's my personal story.
Agree with that, yeah.
And of course, I joined the cops a long time ago. So I have seen a number of police officers charged with murder, having discharged their weapons. A guy called Dougie Lovelock stood trial for murder after shooting Cherry Gross. He was acquitted. A number of police officers were charged with the attempted murder of Stephen Waldorf after he was shot in Earl's Court. And in fact, those officers after that event were brought into my local Nick, where I was working, and put in the canteen at Kensington Police Station and separated so they couldn't collude when they made their statements and all of that. They were acquitted. And if we fast forward to more recent times, then Tony Long stood trial for the murder of Azelle Rodney. And Tony Long was acquitted of murder. So it has happened before. It is only right that firearms officers' actions are scrutinised on the extremely rare occasions that they do pull the trigger. That is right, they should be held to account. But a lot of what the police are complaining about, the armed police officers are currently complaining about, is not really going to be affected by this action, because their gripe is with the IOPC, the Independent Office of Police Conduct,
right,
who conduct investigations, these kind of investigations. And firearms officers are very aggrieved that the investigations take too long. They are launched sometimes when they don't feel there is reasonable cause to launch such an investigation. And the armed cops are also very cross with the Crown Prosecution Service, because they tend to think that the Crown Prosecution Service set the bar a lot lower in terms of a likelihood of a conviction if it's a police officer they're investigating rather than a criminal. So, this weekend, Suella Braverman acted fairly promptly and has announced a review into armed policing. There will be a governmental review which will cover these things. Right. Some hours afterwards, the Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, wrote an open letter to the Home Secretary in support of her review, and he laid out the facts and the issues as he sees them. And having pored over that letter with great scrutiny today, I can say that the Commissioner clearly gets the issues that the armed officers are aggrieved about. So, now is the time, because their voices have been heard.
Yep.
Their point has been made. It is possible that from Harold Wood to Hounslow, from Brent to Bexley, somebody who is mentally ill and has been radicalised online may be sitting in their room thinking, today is the day that I unleash my wrath upon the people of London. Now is the time for those armed police officers to go back to work and to properly fulfil their duties. If they've decided that carrying a gun is no longer for them, so be it. I'm sure they'll be welcomed back to the rough and tumble of frontline response policing in the blink of an eye.